Our first speaker talked a little bit about addiction. That's a little bit about what we're going to talk about. This starts with my home agency. I work at the Collier County Sheriff's Office in Naples, Florida. I've been there since 1996. A friend of mine, Corporal Craig Marshall, in March of 2006, March 6, 2006, was doing a security check of neighborhood or rural power lines not too far north of Marco Island. If you've been to Collier County, that's pretty much where Marco Island is. And as he was out there, he had called out, and he called out on the radio, "Naples, I've been shot." So everyone went running. Numerous agencies, all of our local law enforcement agencies, including Florida Fish and Wildlife and Florida Highway Patrol, went to the area to search the area for the shooter. Obviously, medical arrived, and Craig was transported to a local hospital where he was treated and released. After several days of investigation, the sheriff's office determined that the gunshot wound was self-inflicted. About a year and a half, 2 years before this particular incident, Craig had suffered an injury and he had been prescribed pain medication. It sounds kind of familiar to what we were talking about earlier on. So as I'm sitting here listening to the previous speakers mention those things, it's like a gut punch, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm losing my nerve. I can't talk about it. But in any case, as soon as they determined that, Craig was terminated. To add insult to injury, the day after he was terminated, Craig was driving his vehicle. He was impaired. He rear-ended another vehicle, and he was arrested by FHP for DUI. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in his house with a self-inflicted gunshot wound from his AR-15. Now, that's the first gut punch. So this is where it gets personal. Now, I knew Craig when I first came in, and we worked together. He had worked in the jail about the same time that I had started, and then I went off to gangs. And if you've been in a law enforcement agency or a large enough community, at some point you may have had a chance to kind of cycle around and go into different jobs, and sometimes you lose track of some of the people that you started with. Our agency has 900 sworn, so it's 600 law enforcement, 300 corrections. I knew Craig. I had gone off to work in the gang unit, and I came back, and when I came back as a sergeant supervisor. One evening, right down this was before the incident, several years before the incident, I went back and I stopped off with a disabled vehicle. As I stopped off with a disabled vehicle, I looked back, and it was in the evening, so my blue lights were flickering, and I saw that another vehicle had pulled up behind me, and they had their overheads on. And I looked back, and I looked up and realized it was Craig Marshall, and he was walking up behind me, and he was in civilian clothes. And as I saw him, I said, what are you doing here? And this was right down the street from his house. And I asked him, what's going on? He said, well, I was outside in my driveway, and I saw your lights, and I came down to make sure that you're okay. And as he spoke, he was slurring his words, and his eyes were glassy, and he was given those clues that we typically look for field sobriety. And as he's talking, I'm not even listening to what he's saying. I'm literally just kind of looking at him, and I'm in disbelief. And I couldn't get past the point, and I'm like, no, this is not happening right now. This is not somebody that I know, that I trust, that I've been to calls with, I've worked with. And I cut him off. I said, hey man, I'm sorry, I got to say this. Have you been drinking? And then it just came spilling out, the guilt trip. And he put me back on my heels. And that's the burden. So again, I've told the story like me about 3 or 4 times. I've never told it in front of a crew. I've never done it in front of a crowd. So if you could just bear with me just a second. So he laid it on. He said, oh no, I've got this really bad cold. I took some cough medicine. And I said, okay, man, listen, you're slurring your speech. Your eyes are kind of glassy and watery. What am I supposed to think? And he said, no, man, I can't believe that you would say that. I thought we were friends. I said, I am your friend, and that's why I had to say something. He said, well, no, because now it's going to get out, and you're gonna go tell people, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, listen, if you really have a cold, then just go home. It's right down the street. Get in your car, just drive right back home. And I'm still putting myself in denial. And then he laid it on thicker again. No, it's going to get out now. You're going to go and you're going to tell people you saw me out here, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, I'm not going to say anything. And that was the promise. And I never said anything until after he was gone. And of course, then I spoke to people afterwards and said, oh yeah, I had my suspicions about it. I'm thinking like, and nobody had the guts to speak up. So my story doesn't end there, but that was kind of the epiphany that got me to the point to where when you see something, that you speak up. It was many years later when I married my lovely bride, married into a family. I had 3 wonderful stepchildren, and we had our own bout with addiction, where it came down to a point to where do you step up? Do you say something? And I listened to other people in the family that had those same doubts that I did about, no, we're going to alienate them. If I had spoken up and I had said something about Craig, if I had brought it to somebody's attention, he would have hated my guts. I would have been his mortal enemy. We know that. And I wasn't willing to take that chance. But when it came to my front doorstep, I told my family, I said, this is my story. And that was the first time that I told the story. So I said, thank you very much to Todd for giving me the chance to kind of come up here. I'll try to keep my shit together, but just for one more minute. I just wanted to make sure, I mean, this is a topic we think we talk about enough, but a lot of times we back out at the last minute. So loyalty is not about protecting people from consequences. Loyalty is sometimes about protecting people from themselves. Thank you.